Now we're talking. The much-anticipated sequel to last summer's scintillating Eli Tomac and Chase Sexton duel for the Pro Motocross title appears to have translated nicely over to Monster Energy Supercross in 2023. Although it was doubtful at first because Tomac, normally slow to start seasons, and adjusting to an all-new Yamaha, absolutely trounced the field in the first two rounds, even taking the lead away from Sexton at round 1, and then Sexton had to go to the LCQ and finished off the podium at round 2. You might think we overreact to the early season results too quickly, but even Sexton himself knew he had to answer back, and quickly.
I would say my start to the season was very mediocre. The first race I came out swinging, but lost a lot of time towards the end of the race, and then last weekend was not fun going to the LCQ. So I just told myself, you can't let Eli get a race lead on you early in the series because he doesn't make mistakes a lot. So I really put a lot of, effort and focus on tonight, and it worked out. I felt awesome in practice all day. Was really riding good, and this track being a little bit more technical and had a little bit of both. It was slow, but also fast in some areas. I think helps me a lot. Coming into this weekend, I'm like, I got to stop the bleeding because Eli hadn't lost a heat race or a main event coming into tonight. So was able to stop that, and I don't know what happened to Eli in the third main event. I heard the crowd going wild, but I was just focused on myself and was able to go 1-5-1 for the win, which is, I think, a little bit odd because usually we're all pretty consistent, and tonight was kind of chaotic.
Sexton didn't really indicate any major changes between the first two races and round 3 to suddenly vault his performance forward, but he did say he liked this Anaheim 2 track much more than the first two rounds. As for that thing that he heard the crowd going wild over about Tomac that he didn't really know about at the time, well, you most certainly have seen it already. An uncharacteristic huge crash from Tomac, who is not known for doing such things. In the third main event, Eli was battling with his early title rival Cooper Webb, who was second to Tomac in the first two races of the season, and then he made the big mistake. Tomac explained it in a Yamaha press release. He said, "We put ourselves in a good spot going into the third main, and then obviously made a huge mistake. I went for a triple onto the tabletop, and I pulled a little bit to the outside when I went over the ramp, and then I jumped onto the tough blocks. Honestly, my bike was just wiped away from me, and I kind of folded over it. When I cartwheeled, thankfully my body landed on the tough blocks again, so I came away unscathed. But the bike was pretty beat up, but thankfully I was able to keep going and salvage that 6th overall. So, it was a bad scenario, but also a good scenario because it was a triple crown, and the points damage wasn't as bad as it could have been. That's the way I'm looking at it, to take the positive and learn from my mistake and come back next week." By the way, Sexton isn't perfect either, although he certainly looked that way, logging super fast lap times in qualifying and winning the first main event of the Triple Crown format. But then in race 2, an unforced error in a corner, the same type of small mistake that has cost Sexton race wins before. In fact, he, like Tomac, was also bailed out by the Triple Crown format because he was able to take 1-5-1 scores to the overall. If this was a regular main event and Sexton and Tomac have crashes, it'd be very difficult to win. Yes, Tomac did pull off that feat at Anaheim 1, but this crash was a lot bigger. Which means now we're not only looking at a sequel of the Tomac and Sexton battle from last summer, but a lot of other riders have reinserted themselves into the picture, like the rapidly improving Ken Roczen, now 5-4-3 in the first 3 races of the year, Jason Anderson staying off the ground and getting on the podium for the first time this year, and the ever-persistent Cooper Webb, who managed to stay in the hunt and actually gain points on Tomac, even on a night where he didn't look as sharp as he did at the first 2 rounds. Ultimately, everyone just wants what we saw last summer. 2 riders taking it down to the wire in a winner-take-all finale. Right now, there are 5 that have to feel like they have the opportunity to win this title. And it's a nice shot in the arm for the series to have Sexton go from off the podium at round 2 to on top of it at round 3, just as Tomac loses a little bit of ground. Now both Sexton and Webb lie 4 points behind Tomac, tied for second in the standings. It's a battle of generations, it's a battle for points, it's a battle for race wins, it's the battle you want to see. Get ready for the next one at Houston this weekend.